Today, we are honored to bring you the first television interview with CeCe McDonald since her release Monday from the St. Cloud Correctional Facility in Minnesota. CeCe, a trans woman, served 19 months in a men's prison after pleading guilty to second-degree manslaughter for killing a man during a racist and transphobic attack on her and her friends. CeCe joins us now live from Minneapolis. Sitting next to her is Katie Burgess, who's the Executive Director of Trans Youth Support Network. And here at my table in New York is Laverne Cox, an actress who stars in Orange is the New Black. She's also a transgender activist and producer of the upcoming documentary, Free CeCe. And also joining us is Rea Carey, the Executive Director of the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force. Thanks to everybody for being here.
Thank you.
So, CeCe, this is your first television interview since your release, and I just want to start by giving you the mic. What would you like to say to us?
Well, I'm just really blessed and excited to be back in the world so I can begin, or should I say continue to advocate and be a leader in the trans community and the African American community and the LGBTQ community, and to be a role model and inspiration for trans women and trans women of color.
CeCe, I want you to know that we had your congressperson, Representative Keith Ellison, was on the show yesterday. And when we mentioned that you would be coming on today, we asked Congressman Ellison if he wanted to make a statement. And I just wanted to read it to you because I thought it was lovely. Mr. Ellison says, "It appears that CeCe McDonald defended herself after a bias-motivated attack came on her. However, any loss of life is tragic, and therefore I have sympathy for the family of the deceased. CeCe's case reveals the disturbing intolerance of transgender citizens, and I hope through her struggle, the plight of trans people has come to greater public awareness." So I wanted you to know that your representative sees you in exactly that way, as a role model to give us an opportunity to talk about the inequalities facing trans people.
Yeah, and that's very exciting and good to hear, because a lot of times people don't even acknowledge or understand the lives of trans women, especially African American trans women, because we always are faced with such hardships. And it seemed like, I feel like sometimes we're just taken as props, or people just see us as gimmicks, and a lot of times we're misunderstood. And you know, people usually don't take us serious because they see us as something other than human beings.
The point that CeCe is making there, Laverne, is such an important one, and is reproduced in our media, reproduced in our popular culture over and over. And I wonder, as we think about CeCe's case, I keep thinking, had CeCe not been a trans woman, had been a cis African-American woman who was attacked in a racial attack and then ended up going to jail as a result of defending herself, that the civil rights community around racial issues would likely have gotten involved in the way that the trans community got involved this time. Like, in other words, I wonder if it was hard for the racialized civil rights community to see CeCe as part of the community because she's a trans woman instead of a cis woman.
Well, some folks in the black community did.
Yes.
Mark Lamont Hill wrote a wonderful piece, Why Aren't We Fighting for CeCe, for Ebony.com, that won a GLAAD Media Award earlier this year. And there were some folks from the black community, you're in the black community.
I'm going to count myself,
who have been advocating for CeCe. But I think CeCe's case really is representative of so many of the harsh realities and the intersections of transphobia, transmisogyny, racism, and classism that face the lives of so many trans women of color, right? Our homicide rate is the largest in the LGBT community. In 2012, 53%, over 53% of the homicides were trans women. 73% were people of color. 16% of transgender people have been incarcerated compared to 10% of the rest of the population. So there's forces, systemic forces in our society that say that we're not who we say we are, that disavow our identities, to say that we're always and only the genders that we were assigned at birth, and to say that we should not exist, that we should disappear. What is so powerful about CeCe's story is that night on June 5th, 5th, 2011, she said that I will not disappear. I will not be a statistic. I will not be one of those trans folks who go down and whose lives are treated as if they don't matter. When I met CeCe for the first time when we were shooting the documentary Free CeCe a few months ago when I interviewed her in prison, what I was so moved by, and what I said to Jack Garris, our director, is that this woman knows that she is loved. And so many trans women of color out there feel that we are not loved, that we are not wanted by the LGBT community, by communities of color, by women's organizations in the women's community. And so we need a lot of love. Cornel West, Brother Cornel West reminds us that justice is what love looks like out in public. And I believe that the fierce advocacy that Tyson and the supporters of CeCe in Minneapolis show us that the lessons are that we can advocate fiercely for trans women of color. This is what this advocacy looks like and should look like on a national level.
And Laverne, I so appreciate you laying those statistics there, because I think it also helps us to understand in that moment, and we can't re-adjudicate your case, obviously, CeCe, but it is important for people to understand that at the moment that you are faced with that violence, you are faced with it in the context of this kind of rate of violence, of murder, of death, so that the reactions to experiencing it, it's not, you know, this is not a mean hashtag, right, coming at you. This is the reality.
This is life and death. And I think
life.
It's really important to know, too, that Dean Schmidt, the person who died that night, he had a swastika tattooed on his chest. He is a known white supremacist. These were white supremacists who attacked CeCe and her friends that night. Her life was in danger.
Yeah, right. I mean, so, but of course the difficulty is we can't re-adjudicate the case.
Certainly.
Right, there's a guilty plea. But that said, what I do want to do as we come back is I want to take your case, CeCe, and think more broadly, not only about the question of what happens in that moment, but specifically about the conditions of incarceration, CeCe, for you and for trans women in particular, and we'll dig into that when we get back.